Do you need to retire on Google stock in only 10 years? Then I've calculated the exact amount of shares that you need in order to retire in 10 years. I will be going over my bear case, my base case and my bull case in order to figure out the exact share price for Google 10 years from now, and thereby calculate the exact amount of shares that you need in order to retire. So if you do enjoy today's video, then make sure to hit the like button below and subscribe to my channel for more weekly content just like this. Alright, so before we can calculate the exact amount of shares that we need to buy, then we first need to figure out how much money we actually need to retire in 10 years from now. As a younger investor, I'm a huge fan of the well-known FIRE movement, also known as financial independence, retire early. In order to achieve FIRE, then one needs to be frugal while saving up as much as possible at a very young age. That is the best and the fastest way of reaching FIRE. The word retirement has a different meaning to everyone, and some people might only want to be able to cover the living expenses in order to retire, and that is called lean FIRE. While other people, they want to spend a lot of money and enjoy their time in retirement, and that is called fat FIRE. So throughout the video, I will assume that what you want to achieve is what is called fat FIRE, meaning that you will have money left over at the end of the month to spend on whatever it is that you want to spend money on. The average American family is spending $5,111 per month, but because of inflation, then will your spending most likely increase over time. So assuming an average inflation rate of 3%, then would our average spending per month in 2033 be $7,000. But because what we want to achieve is fat FIRE, then let's just say that we want to have $10,000 per month or $120,000 per year. When using this retirement calculator online, we can see that $10,000 would last us 40 years if we had $1.5 million invested at an average annual return of 8%, which is about what the S&P 500 index is returning after inflation on average per year. So let's move on to my Google stock valuation model. And what I've done is that I've calculated the earnings per share, or the EPS, from now and until 2033, because that is when we want to retire. Here you can see that the EPS growth estimates are color coordinated with the adjusted EPS values that they correspond to. The growth estimates are taken directly from Yahoo Finance under the Analysis tab. The experts are expecting a 16% EPS growth during 2023 and 17% in the following year. And after that, well, then they are expecting Google to grow at 17.60% the next 5 years. The growth rates might seem a bit high, but when you consider everything that is going on within this sector, with AI and all of the opportunities that it brings, and you take Google's past performance into account, then they are actually pretty reasonable. However, what I've done is that I've taken the future EPS growth for Google as a variable that I can control, and thereby I can make different scenarios in the future, whether it be a bear case, a base case or a bull case, and thus I can get the exact share price. And since we do know that stock prices follow the EPS over the long run, then we will be able to calculate Google's exact price by applying a future trailing PE ratio as well. Getting straight into it, then we know that our future net worth target in 10 years from now is $1.5 million. The stock price for Google right now is $125, and the current PE ratio for Google is 26.7. Starting with the bear case, I assume an EPS growth of 10%, and that is far below the analyst expectations of 17%. I also assume that Google will have a trailing PE ratio of 17.5 in 2033. So if these assumptions hold up, then will the share price for Google be $217 at the beginning of 2033? And I simply found that by multiplying the EPS in 2032 by the trailing PE ratio in 2033. Assuming that the bear case is true, then you would only need 6,900 shares in order to retire in 10 years. To buy all of these shares today, then it would cost you $867,000, and that would then eventually grow into these $1.5 million at an annual return of 5.64%. And as you can see, then this scenario very bearish in Google, because the return here is actually lower than of the S&P 500 index. I would personally say that for Google to underperform the S&P 500 index is very unlikely, and I would only give this scenario a probability of 10 to 20% of actually happening. I think the expectations for Google are much larger than this. In the base case, I'm assuming an EPS growth of 15% and a trailing PE ratio of 21. And that is pretty realistic considering that the current PE ratio for Google is 26. This means that the share price for Google in 2030 would be $356. Assuming that the base case is accurate, then you would actually only need 4,210 shares in Google in order to retire in 10 years. To buy all of those shares today, then it would cost you $529,000, and that will then eventually grow into these 1.5 million at an average compounded annual rate of 11%. I personally think that this is the most realistic scenario for Google. We often see with larger companies that they have lower returns, and it should be the same for Google as well. Right now they have a PE ratio of 26, and that is pretty high for a company of this size. Therefore, lowering it a bit to 21 might be more realistic in the long run. But who knows? Google have surprised us investors many times in the past, and they could potentially do it again. In the bull case, I'm assuming an EPS growth of 25% from 2025 and onwards, and a trailing PE ratio of 27, which is slightly above what they have today. This means that the share price for Google would be $617 in 2030. Assuming that the bull case is accurate, then you would actually only need 2,431 shares today in order to retire in 10 years. To buy all of those shares today, then you would actually only need $305,000, and that will then eventually grow into these $1.5 million at a compounded interest rate of 17.25%. Even though these growth rates might seem really high, then it is actually pretty close to how Google has been growing their share price for the last 10 years. I personally think that Google is one of the best stocks you can buy in the entire stock market, and that is both due to the business model of Google and their past performance, and the fact that AI is about to change the entire industry, and Google is one of the companies that are going to benefit the most from AI. They have also been able to maintain a plus 90% market share in the online search market for more than a decade now. And that goes to show that Google is not going anywhere, and they are most likely going to continue to dominate the industry for the years to come. That was all I had in today's video. I hope that you liked the video, and if you did, then don't forget to hit the like button below and subscribe to my channel for more weekly content just like this one. See you guys in the next video.